All right, guys, as you know, our state auditor, Diana DiZoglio, is trying to do the job that 72% of Massachusetts voters explicitly empowered her to do, which is obviously audit the state legislature. However, there is enormous resistance, and it's not just from the lawmakers on Beacon Hill, but also from the very person who should be helping enforce that law, and that is the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell. You know, after they approved this ballot initiative in 24, which gave Diana the authority to examine financial documents and contracts of the state legislature, all she has been trying to do is ask for basic transparency, receipts, records, and contracts, which is the same kind of information that every other state agency is required to provide. But like, instead of compliance, she's running into this crazy wall of opposition. And, you know, you really got to think about it. And I wonder why. Okay. You know, these legislators here, even some of these people voted publicly for this audit, are now saying that the audit could be unconstitutional. What's even worse is they're refusing to hand over financial records, and they're also refusing to seek a constitutional opinion from the Supreme Judicial Court, which could settle this, by the way. The Supreme Judicial Court could settle this matter once and for all. So Diana has one option left. She turns to the Attorney General, as required by law, by the way. And what she did is she asked Andrea Campbell to represent the auditor's office in court, or at least to appoint an assistant or special assistant attorney general to do so. But here's where things go completely off the rails and off track. Campbell has publicly stated that she is in favor of the audit, and she believes in transparency. However, she is simultaneously refusing to take legal action on the auditor's behalf to show transparency. She claims the auditor hasn't answered her questions, but I have 150 pages of correspondence between them, including the auditor waiving attorney-client privileges, which is something that almost is never done, to just show that her office has in fact responded repeatedly and thoroughly. As a matter of fact, I will link these 150-page documents in the description below, so you could go through them yourself. So anyway, you know, instead of acknowledging that transparency, what Andrea did is double down and said that the auditor's responses didn't provide the legal basis needed to pursue the case, which makes no sense to me at all, because what I'm about to tell you is exactly almost verbatim what Diana went over. She cited Chapter 11, Section 12 of the Massachusetts General Laws. What this does, it gives the state auditor the authority to audit any state entity to ensure proper use of public funds and the functioning of public programs. Diana also emphasized that the ballot initiative was passed by 72% of voters in 24, which is just clarifying and reaffirming that this authority includes the Massachusetts legislature. Her office then also clarified that the audit was not intended to interfere with legislative debate or some levels of policymaking, but instead to review financial documents and contracts, just like the audits done in every other agency, department, institution, anything that receives taxpayer dollars. We want to know where our taxpayer dollars are going, right? Then she also noted that the legislature has exempted itself from public record laws, which makes independent audits the only real tool left for any levels of public oversight. Diana's office also made it clear that they followed the proper standards for government auditing and requested that either the Attorney General represent them in court or they approve a special assistant attorney general to allow them to move forward legally, which is still yet to be provided. So basically, if Andrea Campbell didn't want to do it, they could appoint somebody to do it. That still has not been done as of today. You know, these are the same basic justifications used to conduct over 100 legislative audits here in the past. But here we are. Campbell and her team are sitting there quietly on the sidelines, all while the legislature continues to stonewall this audit. Meanwhile, us, the voters, regular people like you and me, are being ignored. We passed a law, and now the officials we elected are not only refusing to follow it, but they are actively blocking it from being enforced. You know, this isn't about partisan politics. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. This is about power. It's about whether voters still have a voice in what their government does. And obviously, we do not. We do not, okay? At least here in Massachusetts, we absolutely do not have a voice. Right now, you know, Diana's office, they're really boxed in. Legally, she can't sue the legislature without the Attorney General's help. And Campbell knows this, obviously. And instead of opening the courtroom doors, she's keeping them shut off by not authorizing any levels of legal action. And that, folks, is a massive blockade, in my opinion. When you really think about this and scale it back, I think that the auditor isn't trying to do some levels of overreach here. This isn't something that has not been done before. She's just attempting to do what state auditors used to do for over a frickin' century. Like I said earlier, the legislature was audited more than 100 times until the early 1990s, and that's when lawmakers quietly ended that level of accountability. And since then, a stretch of unprecedented scandals and corruption, which is 3 House speakers here were indicted. And yet, when Diana tries to bring back this oversight, this transparency, this accountability, they cry foul and scream that it's unconstitutional. If it's so unconstitutional, why don't you take it up in court? Why don't they take it up in court? They won't, because they know they won't win. And instead, Beacon Hill's leadership wants to act as judge, jury, and gatekeeper. These legislators want to keep those records in the dark. They are hoarding the power, they are hiding the information, and they are relying on the public's confusion to get away with it. And meanwhile, when you think about it, Campbell, who campaigned on accountability, is refusing to help enforce the laws, which helps keep people accountable. This is really happening. You cannot make this stuff up, guys. This is reality here, and it is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It's obstruction, and it's really a dangerous. I've talked about this before. This is really a dangerous precedent to set, because if this audit does not go through, despite a public vote, despite a clear legal mechanism to get this audit to go through, it sends a message that every elected official can pick and choose which laws they follow and enforce and which laws that they don't. And that your vote and that your voice, it does not matter. Nothing we do matters. It's why Diana's decision, when you think about it, to release this legal communication is extremely rare. But I also feel like it was pretty brave of her to do that, because what she's attempting to do is expose the truth because the system is rigged to silence it. And now there's been citizens, not even politicians, that are considering filing a writ of mandamus to force Campbell to do her job and allow the courts to decide. Think about how backwards this is. The people have to sue their own attorney general to make her enforce the law, and still the legislature is using every excuse in the book to delay, discredit, and deny their own accountability. The way I see it is this. We all know what this is. It's not about legality. It's about control. It's about not being transparent. It's about not being accountable. The people of Massachusetts deserve transparency, and they voted for it. And no politician, no matter how powerful you think you are, should be above that. If Diana can audit every other agency in the Commonwealth, from UMass to the Convention Center Authority, then she should be able to audit the legislature as well. The public has every right to know how their tax dollars are being spent. And by obstructing that investigation, it's an admission of guilt. That's my opinion. By obstructing it, it is an admission of guilt, period. End of story. Because if these lawmakers are afraid to show the receipts, then maybe it's because they've all got something to hide. Enough is enough. What I would do is call the Attorney General, demand access, and demand answers. Because the fact is, if we don't stand up now, I think that we are sending a clear message that politicians could go out and do whatever they want, right? They could override the will of the people. And I don't think that's a future any of us should accept. Think about it. This problem could trickle down into every single facet here in Massachusetts. It's really disgraceful when you think about it. And I really want to see people be able to get together. And if we could do anything at all as a group, if we could get this to pass, I really and truly feel like it will be a massive, massive win for the people here in Massachusetts, because this is our last chance on something that was voted in by us to get some work done here, okay? To get some transparency here, to get some accountability here, to know where our tax dollars are going. They're scared because they know what they're using our tax dollars for. And the problem is, it's probably not going to align with the majority of what the public want to see it being used for. Anyway, that's it for today's video, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.